Pokemon's always been a comfort show for me. I grew up watching it every Saturday as a kid, and it pretty much was my gateway into the franchise. I started watching at the very tail end of Battle Frontier, so I grew up watching the Diamond and Pearl series. It wasn't until well into the Black and White arc that I started finding the series repetitive, and I stopped watching it weekly. I didn't care much for Ash's new companions. I found it frustrating how much the show was kinda jockeying in place between gym battles, and I hated what they did to Team Rocket. Seriously, whose idea was it to make Team Rocket less fun, and please tell me they got fired for it? Every now and then I'll go back and watch it for nostalgia's sake, or just to unwind with some dumb fun. But I recently started revisiting the series and watching a lot of the episodes I'd missed, and I found a new appreciation for Black and White. There's a lot of great character work in this arc, and it all comes back to a character I didn't care for all that much. Iris. Iris actually gets the best character arc in the entire show. And here's why. Iris is introduced as a sort of expositor to Ash, and by extension the audience, for Unova and how different it is compared to the other regions. This is important because this arc was something of a soft reset for the series. This proved divisive among fans because Ash basically had to relearn how to Pokemon. This immediately made Iris a divisive character as well because she was mostly there to take the piss out of Ash, calling him a kid a lot in response to his idiocy and overall having an annoying sibling dynamic with him. Kind of like Misty, who everybody loves. In fact, when you line it up like this, Misty and Iris are almost identical characters. I invite you to come to one conclusion for why Iris is hated so much more. Oh, I'm only kidding, mostly. Anyway, Iris's established goal is to become a Dragon Master, and raising her Axew is a task she took on prior to the series as a sort of rites of passage in her village before leaving on her journey. But it doesn't take long for viewers to notice that Iris never uses Axew in battle. It isn't until Silent joins the group that the two have an exhibition match and Iris battles at all. Then we learn that Axew has been so coddled by Iris up to that point that not only does he only seem to know one move, but Pansage using the gentlest bullet seed ever is enough to make him cry. It's heavily implied that this is one of, if not the first battle Axew has ever been in. Ash tells Iris that this approach isn't productive to helping Axew learn, but Iris brushes him off, insisting that they take it slow. But it's clear Iris is taking an avoidant approach to really training Axew, especially after it's revealed that Axew actually knows a powerful move called Dragon Rage, only he hasn't learned how to use it properly yet. And when Iris sulks about it, we get a rare moment of Ash at his funniest, when he's playing this straight man to another character's bullshit.
Dragon Rage still isn't working right. It's frustrating.
Yeah?
There's a better name for Axew's Dragon Rage.
And the name is Dragon Sneeze.
That's it!
Later that episode, Axew is taken by a Scolipede, and while everyone's trying to rescue him, Ash asks Iris if she has any other Pokemon she can use. Iris hesitates for a bit before sending out her second Pokemon, and we quickly see why she was reluctant to bring him out. Iris's Excadrill refuses to do anything she says. He defeats the Scolipede this time, but quickly retreats back into itself afterwards. All of this happens in one episode, and it serves to establish something important about Iris. For all her haughtiness, she's a complacent, lazy trainer who has two Pokemon she can't rely on to battle because she hasn't trained them properly. I know it sounds like I'm ragging on Iris right now, but this is the kind of character stuff I love, especially in a show like Pokemon, because none of this is expressed outright. So far, the biggest obstacle in the way of Iris's goal to become a Dragon Master is herself. And it gets even better as we get even more episodes focused on Iris. Iris catches an Emolga, and we see her treat Emolga with the kid gloves the same way she does Axew, even when Emolga would rather use Volt Switch than battle, which leads to her just acting cute to get out of trouble because she knows that Iris will fall for it. So that's 3 Pokemon Iris owns at this point, and only one of which is a Dragon type. She has 1 who can't battle reliably, and 2 that refuse to battle. But she gets Axew used to battling more often until he finally masters Dragon Rage. In one episode, Iris is prodded into accepting a battle with Georgia, a trainer who identifies as a Dragon Buster. She sends out Axew, but he's quickly knocked out by Georgia's Beartick. When she summons Excadrill, he refuses to listen to her and is defeated. We then learned that Excadrill was the first Pokemon Iris trained back when it was a Drover, and the two were in an unstoppable team. They won every battle they took part in, accumulating 99 victories total. This gave Iris enough confidence to challenge Drayden at the Opelucid Gym, but his Haxorus proved too much for Excadrill and caused him to suffer his very first loss. And that's what sent him into his rut. Iris thought the whole time it was because he was depressed from losing, and it's Xylan that tells her that Excadrill really lost faith in Iris for overconfidently sending him into battle with Haxorus to begin with, even after he showed apprehension. And you have to wonder if this is the reason Iris dragged her feet so much in raising Axew. Look what happened after she lost once. It's no wonder she doesn't want to push another Pokemon to that level of strength again. But while Iris would rather sit on her problems and not do much about them, the show forces her to get off her ass and face them head on. Iris is forced to mend her relationship with Excadrill for another shot at Georgia. He accepts her apology, but it's not enough to fully restore their friendship. Iris has to spend the whole night helping him learn Focus Blast for him to trust her enough to use him in battle. The rematch ends in a tie, but Iris' relationship with Excadrill is fully restored. And after this, you see Iris take part in battles more often and actually challenge herself. She's harder on Emolga. Axew was eventually able to take on a Golett, learning Outrage and later Giga Impact. She even challenges Cynthia to a battle. She loses, of course, but to see Iris take on a champion for the sake of experience and not just for winning, that's huge for her. What happened was that Iris became more comfortable with failure and defeat because those things are just part of the process. So it seems like all is well for her now, right? Well, not quite. I mean, sure, Iris as a Pokemon she can reliably battle with now, enough to give Ash's Pikachu a run for his money, but Iris is an aspiring Dragon Master, and her strongest Pokemon isn't a Dragon type. And this is something that doesn't go unremarked.
A trainer who understands Dragon types like few others, Iris!
That announcer's nothing but a fool. After all that dragon mumbo-jumbo, no one's noticing she's not using a dragon type. So how come? Do something now!
What am I gonna do?
Now enter Iris' hot-tempered Dragonite. He's immensely powerful, but the writers don't just hand Iris her ace on a silver platter. Dragonite serves as Iris' final test as a Dragon-type trainer. It's clear from the beginning that Dragonite just sees Iris as transport to fight strong opponents, and he doesn't listen to Iris' commands at all. We see him overpower ice types with ease, and a lot of people got upset because Dragonite beats Beartic and Dawn's Mamoswine so easily after tanking a bunch of ice attacks while being at a type disadvantage. But, well, here's where I'm gonna go on a tangent a little bit. I don't know who among you needs to hear this, but Pokemon is a shonen anime aimed at kids. Writers pulling stuff out of their ass so that the main character wins against all odds is kind of a staple for the genre. Because almost every conflict is solved by brute force, just punching the bad guy really hard over and over is gonna get repetitive, so the writers had to come up with new and exciting ways for the characters we're supposed to root for to win. This is why characters will just come up with new powers on the spot. It's to keep kids engaged with new twist on the formula. I'm not saying it isn't obvious bullshit. I don't even think this is a particularly compelling way to tell stories. It's just what you're signing up for with this particular genre. Pokemon takes it another level though by having battles serve a narrative purpose in some way. A common pattern the show takes is for a character to lose to hammer in something they have to learn or a challenge they have to overcome, and then applying it the next time for them to win. You ever notice how Ash's battles with Paul highlight their differences in training style each time? It's not just that Paul is a better trainer, it's that Ash never adapted and stubbornly sticked to the same tactics each time. Almost every Pokemon battle, especially battles the episode is centered around, is going to serve the plot of that episode in some way. Pokemon's been coming up with new ways for characters to win or lose for its entire runtime to keep things interested for the kids watching. And I keep emphasizing kids because, let's face it, the only people bothered by this are adult nerds who think anything has ever been based on game stats, or that the power levels of these characters can be measured or tracked at all. And they get frustrated over and over when it doesn't line up with their data and charts. And this is where I come back to Dragonite's battle with Beartic and Mamoswine. This is clearly meant to drive home that this Dragonite is an absolute beast, and that Iris has her work cut out for her taming it. It's just that simple. Stop trying to turn it into homework. Anyway, Georgia is quick to remark that Iris just getting by on Dragonite's strength does nothing to prove her integrity as a trainer. And Iris takes this seriously. Yeah, Iris takes a comment from her rival to heart and she starts making a sincere effort to form a bond with the increasingly stubborn Dragonite. Not because she wants to prove Georgia wrong, but she cares about her own integrity as a trainer that much now. Where Iris before would have just avoided battling with Dragonite or just using him as a last-ditch save, she chips away at his hard exterior until he becomes the strongest battler at her disposal, and explores her ability to connect with dragon types in the process. When she revisits her village, Iris meets up with her childhood friend, and this is basically Iris before her character development. She's unsure of her abilities as a trainer and would rather stay in the village. When her Hydreigon goes on a rampage, it's Iris that communicates with him and calms him down. The Hydreigon's trainer becomes inspired by her enough to go out on her own journey. This grabs the attention of Drayden, who challenges her to a battle to see how far she's come, and Iris accepts without hesitation despite him being the first person she ever lost to, and the battle gives Excadrill some much needed closure. She loses, but Drayden is so impressed by Iris's growth that he decides that she will be the successor to his gym after he retires. Iris's character arc has her overcoming her complacency and learning to challenge herself to reach her goal. And when she returns in Pokemon Journeys, we learn that she never stopped challenging herself. After separating from Ash, she faced Dragon-type trainers all over the world and eventually worked her way high enough to become the champion of Unova. By now her Axew has evolved all the way into a Haxorus, so powerful her Dragonite is just an opening act in comparison. And here's where Iris's character arc apexes. The young trainer that was too afraid to take on anything too difficult has risen all the way to the highest ranking trainer in the region by taking on her own fears one at a time. And with the title of champion, you'd expect that this is where Iris would stop. But she still doesn't. You might wonder why. Well, remember, becoming champion was never actually her goal. She even says that her work isn't done yet because she still isn't a Dragon Master. Becoming champion of Unova was just a milestone Iris achieved on her way to her actual goal. For a shonen anime for kids, that's really good. And when she battles Ash, she gives it her all, but she's just so relaxed with battles now. She actually takes the time to stop and encourage Ash's Dragonite to just relax and have fun. She cheers on her opponent to help him learn Draco Meteor and take the win, and she accepts her loss gracefully, as we would expect by now. It's just back to the old grind for her. Iris has a character arc more compelling than the main characters, in a much shorter amount of time. That's not half bad for a show about kids collecting monsters and making them fight each other. As far as a lesson to teach kids, it's really a thing of beauty. With so many shows saying that you can achieve anything as long as you want it really badly, it's really refreshing to hear that sometimes it's not enough to want something really badly. You might have to step out of your comfort zone and do some things that might scare you. But if you stay focused, eventually, you'll get there. And even when you don't, you'll still be an inspiration to others. I think that's amazing. I'm Ibrahim. Thanks for watching.